Hello, everyone. It's Mega Champ again with a different, I suppose, or quote unquote new type of video that I'm going to be trying out, potentially, trying to do consistently when I have time, of course, and if I feel like it, I guess. Although, I'd have to do it consistently, but we'll see what happens. I'll try it for a little bit, and yeah, we'll go from there. Today, I am going to be giving my quote unquote full thoughts on the game that I just most recently completed. Which, if you haven't already been able to figure out, don't know how you couldn't, the name's literally on this image. But it's Tales of Xillia for the PlayStation 3. I just finished that a couple of days ago. So this is my just full thoughts on it. Um, Obviously, this is just my personal feelings on it and my experiences with it and my opinions, obviously, on it. And everyone's experience, feelings, and opinions on games is clearly going to be different. So, this is just my personal feelings, experiences, and thoughts on the game. And everyone's opinions, feelings, and thoughts and experiences are going to be different. So, basically, your mileage may vary. It's just my personal feelings on it. If you feel differently, that's fine, obviously. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion, just like I am, so. But this is just how I personally felt after beating this game. And I am going to talk about five different subjects here or parts in this. Yes, I wrote it down, believe it or not, as in I actually wrote it down. I didn't write down what I was gonna say. I just wrote down the sort of categories or subjects or whatever you want to refer to it as. And those five are the following: the story of the game, the story that happens in the game, the characters in the game, the world of the game. Basically, that just means where the game takes place, the setting, pretty much. That's another word you could use for it, I suppose. And obviously, the last two are the most obvious two, which is of course the graphics and the gameplay. Now, I by no means, seriously, am no expert. If you couldn't figure that out by now, I don't know what to say, but I'm no expert, but this is just my personal feelings on the game and experiences on the game and opinion on the game. So, if you don't know, Tales of Xillia is obviously one of the games in the Tales of franchise, and I've been playing a lot of older games recently. The last one being the one that ended up winning my personal game of the year last year, being Tales of the Abyss. I don't need to gush on that anymore. Go watch my previous videos for that. But it's another in the Tales of franchise. I only went as far back as the PlayStation 3 games, with the obvious exception being Tales of the Abyss, which is a PlayStation 2 and 3DS game, which I bought the 3DS version of. But that's as far back as I went. I didn't go as back as the PlayStation 2, because that's too old, if you ask me. If they port them or remake them, I probably will play them. But other than that, that's as far back as I was willing to go, was the PlayStation 3 era. And obviously for the PlayStation 4 era, I played stuff like Tales of Berseria, Tales of Zestiria, and Tales of Vesperia. Let's not talk about that last one. Anyway, so yeah, it's in the Tales of franchise. I'm getting close to finally being done or caught up, quote unquote, on the Tales of franchise, to my liking at least. There's only two more for me to really play after completing this game, one of which I've already started. Um, and then I'll be pretty much quote unquote caught up as far as I'm concerned, as far as I care really. And that is, of course, the sequel to this game, Tales of Xillia 2 and Tales of Arise, and then I will be caught up. I do intend on playing future games of the franchise, as long as they're not mobile games, of course, because I don't play mobile games. So any future games I will obviously be play, because if there's anything I've learned from playing these games now in the last couple years or so, it's that I seriously should have played them far sooner before now. Like, seriously. Makes me wish I had a time machine so I could go back in time and beat myself up! Because of how good some of these games ended up being, so... I mean, it's a metaphor, but I hope you get the point that I'm trying to make. I should have played these games a lot sooner, that's the point. But, yeah. After Xillia 2 and Arise, I will be caught up, and I will play any future games that come out for it. And that's it, really. Tales of Xillia on the PlayStation 3 originally came out on August 6th, 2013. And this is 2023. Good God, that's a long time ago. 10 years. Well, almost 10 years, but you get the point. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of older games recently, ever since last year. It's just how things turned out and what I bought, so at the time at least, and I go in order. I play games in the order that I buy them, pretty much. So yeah. So that was a long time ago, but, you know, I don't care when it came out. It's still going to be a participant or possible winner of awards this year at the end of the year, so enough of me rambling, I suppose. Let's go into how I feel about all of those subjects and categories that I discussed at the start. And we'll start with, of course, the story of the game. I'm not going to describe everything to you because, like I said at the start, everyone's opinions, experiences, and feelings on a game is going to be different. So I'm not going to describe literally everything because that would take way too long. I'm just going to discuss my feelings on the story, the characters, the world, the graphics, and the gameplay. And then you can make up your own mind on if you want to play it for yourself and decide for yourself. So I'm not going to describe everything because it would take too long and I don't remember everything, so... But first, the story of the game. Honestly, the Tales of Xillia story is pretty decent for the most part, like with most games, like with most Tales of games, except for Abyss, which didn't take very long, but like with most games, it takes a while for the story to actually get interesting and good, but it does get pretty damn interesting and good eventually, after the first couple of hours or so. It really does. There are some moments, honestly, actually quite a few, if I'm to be completely honest, where the story kind of feels like it quote-unquote plateaus, where, you know, it kind of flatlines pretty much. But every time that happened, or every time I felt like it was happening in the game, something would end up happening, pretty much. Something would end up happening that would pretty much put it back up and interest me and intrigue me once again. The best way that I came up with to describe it when I gave my brief thoughts on the Discord channels that I'm on is like an up and down roller coaster ride where you go up and down, up and down, up and down. You get it, I hope. So basically an up and down roller coaster ride, which honestly, if you ask me, that's not the worst thing a game can do, because at least it keeps you interested and invested in what's going on and everything that's happening. So I don't really mind a story like that, because at least it keeps you interested and invested, like I said, and right when you least expect it, when it seems like, you know, it's plateauing or flatlining or however you want to put it, it does something to pretty much make you interested in it again, and this game did that pretty well and pretty tremendously for the most part, so I greatly appreciated it. I will admit the story is kind of quote-unquote generic, mostly when you are pretty much dealing with and fighting against kingdoms that are pretty much corrupted, and there's two of them. Oh, this group wanted to die, except they didn't. Um, so that was definitely interesting how you were fighting against two corrupted kingdoms, which seemed like, you know, certain doom, yet somehow they still managed. But yeah, it that does kind of feel generic at times when you're fighting against an evil kingdom or an evil, monarch, or whatever the situation is, evil government, evil church, stuff like that. Pretty much seems to be pretty much per the norm when it comes to JRPGs. And maybe it is a little generic, but it does have a lot of interesting things that happen in it, so, and intricacies to it. So even though it was a little generic, it was also unique and interesting still. And it has been a while since I've played a game like that, so I didn't mind it too much. If I do it too many times in a row, then it can become a problem, but it had been a while since I had played a game like that, so it didn't matter this time. But the story was pretty good for the most part, if you ask me. It was an up and down roller coaster ride, I would say. The next thing I'm going to talk about is obviously the characters of the game. I'm not going to describe you the characters or tell you the characters' names or really anything about the characters. You just have to sort of experience it for yourself, I suppose. But in terms of the characters, they were pretty good for the most part. I liked most of them, pretty much all of them. There wasn't anything unbelievable like what happened in Abyss, where there were shock reveals or they went through unbelievably good character development. There was some pretty decent character development in this game from pretty much all of the characters, except maybe Leia, but Leia still had her moments. But so I pretty much liked all of the characters in the game. Even the villains were pretty interesting for the most part, and everything else about all of the characters in the game. So I liked them all. Probably the best one and my favorite one is obviously the main character, Jude. He pretty much, after I was finished playing the game, he pretty much immediately shot up to my second favorite Tales of MC, that's main character, and second favorite Tales of character in general. We all know who the first one is. Come on, I don't need to say it. Go watch my previous videos. It's an Abyss character. But he's great, like seriously. He's a doctor, and then all of a sudden he starts to have to frickin' he has to bloody his own hands, but it's kind of great in a way and also kind of badass. So Jude's great, seriously. I was introduced to Jude and Mila when I played Berseria for those optional secret bosses in those games. But that doesn't really do them any justice, honestly. You gotta play this game to really experience them. But yeah, he's great. Probably my favorite character, Tales of character, since the one that's still my favorite. So he's my second favorite, which is still pretty decent. And obviously the mascot here is unbelievably great. He's the best mascot I've seen that talks since probably Bienfu from Berseria, and the best mascot since Miyu from Abyss. You've seen Miyu. You saw me zoom in on it constantly. But he's friggin' great. And he immediately also shot up to my second favorite Tales of mascot in the franchise. Can't wait to see of him more in the sequel. But yeah, he's great. And there's really nothing else to say. Some pretty funny moments with him, especially in some battle victories where he'll like chomp on Jude's face. It was the first time that happened, I literally laughed my ass off. I'm not even kidding. It was so great and so funny. But yeah, he's great. Best Tales of mascot since Miyu, so the characters are pretty great for the most part. I liked them all. I didn't really hate any of them except maybe one, but that's only because he gets chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. I could go on forever with how many times he backstabs and then comes back and acts like he's back for good and then backstabs again. Like, good God, how many times is this group gonna give him before they just kick him off a cliff or something? Whatever. It is what it is, I suppose. But I liked them all for the most part. So the characters are great. They really are. One of the few Tales of characters that has a sort of older character, elderly character, however you want to put it, that I've played that's had them. There's been a couple of other Tales of that have had older characters, but not like someone who's actually, maybe in his 50s, possibly, with white hair, basically. So that was pretty interesting, honestly, and I kind of liked that uniqueness of it. So I don't know if other Tales of games have that. I'm sure they do, but they're all stuck on way old platforms, so maybe I'll experience it eventually. But he's pretty great, and I can't wait to see him again in the sequel. So the characters are pretty great. The world in the game, or I guess I should say worlds, as in two, as in plural. The world in the game, I don't have much to say about it, honestly. I mean, I think most of the Tales of worlds are based on Earth, except it's a different kind of Earth and just, made differently and with all the extra stuff added into it to make it unique with the magic and stuff. But Rize Moxia is the name of the world in Tales of Xillia, but there is a second one in Tales of Xillia that you find out about later, called, spoilers, Olympias. So, I mean, the world is what it is. It's not as open as some of the newer Tales of, like Berseria and Zestiria, but it's still a pretty decent open area for the most part. It's probably Tales of Xillia, and really, I suppose, Graces too, in a way. So really, Tales of Graces and Tales of Xillia, the PlayStation 3 era, is when they started experimenting with a more sort of quote-unquote open world for the Tales of franchise, or at least more open area. And, it's definitely advanced. The Graces areas were pretty big too, but the Tales of Xillia areas were pretty much just as big, if not bigger. So, yeah, this was clearly when they started to experiment a bit more with the openness of it. I don't know how else to say it or describe it, sorry. But, I mean, maybe I could be wrong, obviously, and maybe I probably am. But, yeah, that's what it seemed like to me, is that this is when they started experimenting with the openness and the more open area to it. The world's fine for the most part. It does have some interesting stuff to it with the magic system, or the magic stuff, or, magic in general, however you want to put it. Arts, that's pretty much what it's called in Tales of, arts, but the system in this game is definitely interesting and unique with spirits and humans and that stuff. But yeah, I thought the world was pretty interesting for the most part, and it got really interesting and cool when the second world was introduced and the relationship between the two worlds. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the relationship is now and still is for the sequel that I just started. So, but it's pretty good for the most part. So I liked it for what it was. The last two things are obviously graphics and gameplay. And I'm definitely no expert at these kinds of things, that's for sure. So take everything I say however you want, obviously, with a grain of salt, or however you want to put it. This is just my feelings on it, but the graphics for Tales of Xillia, I thought they were pretty good, mostly. Pretty good for a PlayStation 3 game, at least. The graphics for Tales of Graces was pretty good too, for the most part. I don't know if it was an improvement from Graces, maybe a little in a couple of ways, but it was also similar. But I thought it was good for what they needed. That's really all that matters when it comes to graphics. If you want ultra high graphics, then play PlayStation 5. But for a PlayStation 3 game, I thought they were pretty good for the most part, and they worked pretty well for the game, and the anime cutscenes also worked extremely well for this game. So, in terms of how the graphics worked with the game, I thought it worked perfectly fine and perfectly good for it. It is a PlayStation 3 game, so that you have to keep that in mind, but I thought they were pretty good for the most part, but I'm no expert. And last but certainly not least, the gameplay. Yeah, the gameplay's great. All I'm doing is praising this game. I'm sorry, but there's not really a lot negative I can say about it. But the gameplay was pretty good. It's kind of similar to Tales of Graces, mostly. I mean, you still have the TP bar, magic bar, however you want to put it, which they pretty much brought back, whereas in Graces it was there but sort of not there. It's hard to explain the Graces, but the Tales of Xillia battle system was similar to Graces with some improvements on it. So yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it. Obviously everything takes me some time to get used to, and it did take me some time, and I struggled on a couple of occasions, but I'm persistent, so I always come out as the winner eventually. Cough, item abuse, cough. But yeah, the gameplay's really great. I really loved it. It was really fun. I was never not having a fun time with the gameplay in Xillia, just like with Graces, and combined with everything else, Xillia was actually better than Graces in a lot of ways, because it had great story, great characters, and great gameplay, whereas Graces only had great gameplay. The characters were fine in Graces, but the story was good for a little bit, but then plateaued and stayed at the plateau. So basically, Tales of Xillia was, honestly, in my opinion, leaps and bounds better than Tales of Graces in terms of everything that it had in it overall. Obviously, everyone's gonna feel differently, and the Graces gameplay is still unbelievably great, don't get me wrong. Xillia just kind of expanded upon it and actually made it a little better in a couple of ways with linked arts, which is a mechanic in the game, which is basically where if you use a specific art when the link gauge is full, you can use a linked art where you basically combine your powers, or however you want to put it, your attacks, and do a combo on the enemy. So it was like Graces, except better, honestly. So I really liked it, and it was just great. It was great overall. Really loved Tales of Xillia. I wish there was something negative I could say about it. I know it seems like I'm being overwhelmingly positive, but there's just not a lot negative for me to say, and trust me, if there was, I would. I mean, I just gave Graces some slight criticism when it came to the story, but there wasn't really a lot in Tales of Xillia that I didn't like. There were some moments when, I would have preferred the story to not have plateaued, but it didn't matter because eventually something happened that made me interested in it again, so it really didn't matter overall. And there was one moment that had me a little confused and felt like a little bit of a logical fallacy, but it was only like literally one moment. So if it's literally only one moment, you have to sort of let it slide, if you ask me at least. If it happens more than once, then maybe you bring it up, but it only happened like literally once. I'm not even kidding. It happened literally once, and that was it. So, I don't care. If it happens only once and doesn't happen constantly, then I'm not going to care, and I'm just going to let it slide, because I'm not going to let it, somehow be something that I nitpick on and say that, made the game worse or something like that, because it didn't. So, but it was just the one moment. So, overall, this game was freaking great. It really was. In terms of where it landed in my Tales of list, it's third. That's how good it was. It beat out Grace's F, so Grace's F is now fourth. because the game was too good. I'm sorry, it just was. Everything in it was fantastic. Great story, great characters, great gameplay, graphics fit it, the anime cutscenes fit it, the world was good. Everything in it was good, it really was. I can't really say too much negative about it other than the couple of moments when the story plateaued, but you just have to be patient and then something will happen again to make you interested in it again, or that's what happened with me at least. But yeah, for the most part, this game's great. Um, I'm trying to think if I should give it a grade or not. Uh, let's say I would say an 8 or 9 out of 10. Like somewhere like high 8, low 9 out of 10 for this game overall. That's the best I could come up with. I'm not good at this, okay? Like I said, I'm not an expert, but that's just my feelings and thoughts and experiences with this game. But yeah, I really loved it. I wish I would have played it sooner. It might have won my personal game of the year several years ago if I had played it sooner, but you know, it is what it is, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, it's literally the only game that I've played this year so far, so I can't really say anything else other than that. But yeah, who knows what would have happened, but like I said, it is what it is. You live, you learn, and you learn from experience. And that's really all you can do, and that's all anyone can do, and that's all that can really be said. I'm playing the games again now, so that's really all that matters. I've already started the sequel, Tales of Xillia 2. I will not obviously be giving my full thoughts on that game until I finish it, which I'm nowhere close, because like I said, I just started, so I played like, I don't know, an hour, maybe two of it. But yeah, I'll give my thoughts on that game after I finish it. That's all that I have to say about this game. Like I said, great story, great characters, great world, great graphics, great gameplay. There's really not a lot negative I can say about this game. I'm sorry. Like I said, this is just my feelings and thoughts and experiences on it. Everyone's feelings, thoughts, and experiences and opinions are going to be different at the end of the day. So you want to decide for yourself, you play it for yourself. Yes, it's hard to find. Maybe they'll port it. I don't know. It's hard to really tell anymore. They should. They should kind of do a Symphonia Chronicles situation and port both Xillia and Xillia 2 on the same thing. But they only ported the first Symphonia again onto PS4 and PS5, so who the hell knows what they'll do. So we can't really make any assumptions. That's what they should do. Whether they will do it or not is obviously a different story. So, great game overall. I do highly recommend it. At least try it out for yourself. See if you like it. But that's just me. That's just my thoughts and feelings and opinions and experiences with it. And everyone else's is, going to be different. So, I did. I tried to play a couple of games before Tales of Xillia 2, so I didn't get too quote-unquote overwhelmed with too much Tales of. I played a couple of demos that was announced at the Nintendo Direct that they announced and released. The Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe and the Octopath Traveler 2 demo. I will be talking about both in the same video. They are demos, though, so keep that in mind. So that means when I talk about them, I'm going to basically just give a brief overall thought and feelings on the demos. I'm not going to go into depth on the story, characters, world, graphics, and gameplay like I did for this game, because it's just a demo and not a full game. So just keep that in mind if or when I do that. I mean, I probably will. I'm going to try to do it sometime this weekend, but that's what I will be putting out next in terms of thoughts and feelings on a game. And yeah, that's all I got to say about this one. And yeah, so play it for yourself, decide for yourself. That's all you can really do at the end of the day. So I will try to do something like this a bit more consistently, hopefully, once I find time, if I find time, if I like doing it, if I feel like doing it. I mean, I could always do it and just not care, but which I might try to do, because I need something to do for videos, that's for sure. other than occasional random gaming news stuff when I feel like doing that, and Pokemon stuff, and Digimon stuff, which we're not going to talk about right now. Yeah, so, yeah, that'll be next. I'll give my a general overall thought and feeling on the Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe demo and the Octopath Traveler 2 demo in one video. So that'll be next time. But that's all for this one. This has been my thoughts on Tales of Xillia for the PlayStation 3. Great game overall. Didn't really have anything negative to say about it. So yeah, decide for yourself. It's up to the individual at the end of the day. But until next time, this is MegaChamp, saying next time I'll be providing you with more unlimited guidance. Tipo! I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm gonna just go now. Okay. Bye. Bye!